Welcome to Business Writing Tips, Concise and Accessible. This is part of our eBit series. Our eBit series are tidbits of e-learning information made that you can listen, take notes, and help make decisions on how to move forward. For longer information and more in-depth, please look for our e-webinars, which are 60 to 90 minutes, and our e-workshops, which are 1 day or multiple days of training. Let's move forward. Well, let's start with a true fact. When faced with an option, most individuals will read the item that's more succinct, the item that is more scannable, meaning are they able to scan it for quick information to gain an understanding on what it will be if they read more. The item that flows well. So is there structure, or does it look like I'm really going to have to go in depth to find out what that's telling me? The item that has less acronyms up front. So is it confusing? Is it testing me? An item that's actually written at a lower grade level, and we'll speak about that moving forward. And an item that has a clear call to action in the subject line that they can gain understanding of what is expected of them. This is why we ask, what is concise writing? Think about that. Concise writing, briefly defined, is saying what you want to say using the fewest words possible. So we now go to what is accessible writing. Accessible writing is good writing, but it makes your content easier for everyone to consume. So it's accessible, that it flows, it has the scannability within it, and it's easy to consume. That's where we talked about the grade levels as well. Here we will speak about important rules. Key areas of execution / concise. Well, one of the most important rules is to write more succinctly. Say what you say, but do it briefly, be it directly, and be precise. Use simpler language. We mentioned earlier about even writing in grade levels less. Recently, in working with an agency of the government, they had difficulty with their viewership or who they write blogs to not reading their blogs. And the people writing the blogs were high level with PhDs, and they were writing with the expectations that even though the readers may have PhDs, that they actually wrote at that high level. And actually studies show that people are more apt to read something at a 10th grade level. It's written simpler. They don't have all the other fluff. And in fact, acronyms are first even spelled out with the acronym at the end, but they use the whole word. And then after they use it once, then they can use the acronym. So they do things that make it simpler for the reader to read. Even if the reader is well educated and at a high level, if they had choices of reading what's at their level, high education, PhD, versus what's simpler to read, the human mind picks what's simpler to read. So to write at a 10th grade level, you'll actually get more people reading. So this is why we say use a simpler language. Eliminate what we call vague modifiers, and we'll touch on that in a minute. Remove jargon. As you know, many times I come from a background of information technology, and there's a lot of jargon that we can utilize, but not every reader is familiar with that jargon. And even if they are, try to remove it, spell it out, keep it simple. Avoid redundant words and phrases. Redundancy may sound good, but it really just adds more to the confusion. And also be aware of what we call run-ons and fragments. We'll speak to that in a minute. We spoke about vague modifiers. Now there's a difference if I'm giving a presentation or I'm in conversation, but in writing, you should avoid vague modifiers. And here are common ones. Highly discussed. This was highly discussed. Well, we discussed this. This was widely mentioned, widely accepted, and highly engaging. In conversation, in presentations, this may be fine because you're putting an emphasis, but in writing, it's called vague modifiers. Redundancy. Well, there's a caution to avoid redundancy. How do I spot redundant words? Well, when you're writing, read through to spot redundancy words and think about the thought process as well. Look for redundancy meaning in words, because that could, even though the words might be different, add redundancy. Look for redundancy in phrases. Recognize redundancy in paragraphs, and eliminate run-on sentences. Here is a redundancy example. In our workshops, when we work directly with clients, we have these that everyone digs into, whether it's redundancy, vague modifiers, run-on sentences, where we teach how to identify. This sentence, when spoken, may sound fine. Distribution of readily available resources within the department is dependent on the readiness of managers to do said distributing. Well, the redundancy is in distribution, distributing at the end, readily and readiness, and this the word said because you have distribution and distributing adds to that as well. So it's just another word that it doesn't have another redundant word that matches it, but it can be eliminated if you look to rewrite the sentence. Let's run through an accessibility challenge. We spoke earlier about speaking at a high level. If you're speaking PhD, that the thought process may be people who read my material all have PhDs, and certainly they would understand what you say. But when people scan to see what's scannable and what's accessible, they will then choose those that just seem easier to read. It's the human mind. Well, we spoke that most things are read if they're at a 10th grade level. So listen to these two paragraphs which speak the same thing. The first one, notwithstanding the questionable gravity of the author's nuanced application of the neonicotinoid pesticide, his analysis suggests it will nevertheless improve desirous suppressions of non-endemic species. Well, that's great, but let's simplify it. The difference in the way the author applied the pesticide was only small, but it should help stop the non-native species spreading. Much simpler. Which one would you read? This is a great example. Let's talk about the acronym challenge. We say, educate the reader. Don't expect everyone that reads your material to always understand the acronyms. I was in information technology, which is heavy in acronyms, but speaking with lawyers, speaking with other professions, acronyms are normal. However, the reader still, the human mind works, that you don't use just the acronym first. You spell out exactly what it means, then you could put parentheses and acronym at the end. And once you say that word once, then you can use acronyms moving forward in the writing afterwards. But educate the reader. Don't expect that it's understood because it may not be understood. Spell it out the first time, as we mentioned. Then you can use the short version after that. Use parentheses if needed, and what's common and well known to move forward. Hopefully, this quick e-bit has have your mind thinking about what you need. Please reach out if you need more instruction. But the e-bits is 10 to 15 minutes long. That allows you to say, where am I suffering? Why am I suffering? And what do I need to do moving forward? But here's a great quote. It says, have something to say it as clearly as you can. That is the only secret of style, by Matthew Arnold. So thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to hearing from you. We want to thank you for attending. If you'd like to email, our email is mark@markvillarreal.com. If you have questions about additional courses, you can send that to contact@markvillarreal.com. My website is markvillarreal.com. My phone number is listed there. And please subscribe to our YouTube, which this will be posted. But as we create new tidbits or other e-learnings or educational videos, you will be notified as well. So please, thank you very much and have a good day.